Into the 5:30 and 10 o'clock news on KRTV3, the news station. KRTV takes you live to where the news is happening more often than any other station.
The accident occurred just a few feet from airport boundaries.
A Great Falls high bison win.
More than anything, that may bring everyone together.
Whether it's around the corner or across the state, the news station covers the events for you as they take place. So for the best live news coverage in north central Montana, watch the 5:30 and 10 o'clock news on KRTV3, the news station.
This is KRTV3, Great Falls News Station.
On tonight's edition of Street Stories,
I asked for a mammogram, and he said, "You do not need one at this time."
but it was cancer.
Oh, I love you, I love you.
A lack of care may have cost her her life. She blames her HMO.
You don't give doctors incentives for not treating patients.
We got screwed. Are some HMOs more interested in saving money than in saving lives?
Why would a doctor not bring in specialists, not conduct tests?
Well, fundamental reason would be to save money.
We're going to talk about accounting today. And
She was on the fast track.
I'm going to make you think. And once you get used to it, it's not bad. But
Then her employer hit the brakes.
once I became pregnant, all of a sudden, it just changed. Everything changed. I got to go to work today.
Now this teacher says she got a lesson in discrimination.
What is being pregnant called among women professors? And some people call it academic suicide.
Just tell them Carol called.
He grew up around legends.
This one here is Meyer Lansky, Bucky Luciano, people like this. But I had everything growing up, everything but the father.
But years later, he did meet his father.
When did you become suspicious of him? I would say by the second day, I knew he was bad.
What happened next made him a hit man.
Ta-da! Stardom, we're ready?
On TV.
You love your father?
Absolutely not.
Not.
Good evening and welcome to Street Stories. I'm Ed Bradley. We trust our doctors to make the right decisions to keep us well. But what happens if your doctor decides the most important vital sign is really the dollar sign? That's a question raised by Janice Bosworth. She says her life has been put in jeopardy by her health maintenance organization, or HMO. More than 38 million of us belong to HMOs, which were designed to keep health care costs down. But now, there may be some unexpected side effects. As Peter Van Zant tells us, because of the way that some HMOs are set up, some doctors may be making a fateful choice between saving lives and saving money.
Oh, God. Oh, I love you, I love you. You're the best kid in all the world, you know that? I shouldn't be alive right now. I should have been dead a while ago, I'm sure. To me, it's a miracle that I'm standing here, and it's a miracle that I was able to take Christopher to his first day of kindergarten. Last year at this time, I never thought I'd...
Janice Bosworth has cancer,
Is that your name?
and she's angry that her son may grow up without her because, she says, her doctor deliberately ignored her symptoms for months.
I lie in bed sometimes at night, and I just cry thinking about Christopher not having a mother. Have a good day. Bye, sweetie. And I lie in bed at night and I think, and I shouldn't do this, but I think, boy, if I had only taken matters into my own hands. Oh, yeah, let me see.
It all started 3 years ago when Janice, then 29, says she found a lump on her breast. Janice went to see her doctor, who works with an HMO, a health maintenance organization.
I asked for a mammogram, and he said, "You do not need one at this time. Let's wait a month, and we'll recheck it."
Janice says her doctor told her it was just a cyst.
Now, you know what? We're going to go home and eat lunch, okay, Christopher? I went back to see him the next month, and I said, "Now I have 2 lumps. Right by each other, I have 2 lumps now." And he looked at me and said, "What are you doing here?"
Janice says it took 5 months for her doctor to finally give her a mammogram.
So they called me back and I said, oh, yeah, we do have your mammogram. Everything's completely fine. Don't worry about a thing. I said, are you sure? I mean, I would feel better at least if you, oh no, come back in 4 months and we'll recheck you.
Janice decided to get a second opinion, and that doctor said her mammogram report and his examination clearly showed a problem.
I've never seen a doctor so upset. He actually looked at me and said, Janice, he was very diplomatic. He said, this is not a cyst. I don't know what it is. He said, it needs to come out right now. You cannot wait.
Within days, Janice's worst fears were realized. Her cysts were cancerous tumors.
What were you thinking now?
You know, just thought if I did something different.
It's not your fault. You're not the doctor.
I know. But I just felt like maybe I had to be the doctor.
That is red. Would you have ever told a woman or a man that came in with a lump and the symptoms that Janice had, would you ever say, well, let's wait 4 months?
No. No, not with what Janice had.
Dr. Gary Davidson, a cancer specialist, is now Janice's doctor.
What does your gut tell you? Why do you suppose she was asked to wait?
Somebody didn't want to go through the potential expense of doing the surgery.
Janice is convinced that she is a victim not of bad medical judgment, but of a system that fosters greed. Janice's doctor works for an HMO plan that uses what's called a shared risk pool. And it works like this. Doctors set aside a pool of money to pay for tests and specialists. And at the end of the year, if they don't spend that pool money on patients, they divide up what's left among themselves.
They split up the money.
They split up the money. That's correct.
You see something wrong with that system?
Oh, absolutely. It's a conflict of interest. There's a definite conflict of interest. That's it. Good.
Dr. Michael Palazzolo is the chief of staff at Granada Hills Community Hospital outside Los Angeles. He sees the effects of HMOs trying to save money.
So there is an attempt on the part of the group to decrease the amount of admissions, to decrease the amount of surgeries, or to delay surgeries.
It almost sounds now like we're having an adversarial relationship between the patient and the doctor.
You got it.
You don't give doctors incentives for not treating patients. I mean, is that the way it's supposed to be? No. Chris, do you want tuna fish?
Janice and her husband Steve believe her doctor's medical decisions were clouded because of the shared risk pool.
You both believe that, at least in the back of his mind, he was thinking, hold off on these tests because of this shared risk pool. He didn't want to diminish it, and he didn't want to take money out of his own pocket. You really believe that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't think it was in the back of his mind either.
I think it was in the front of his mind.
It's right in his hip pocket.
Has her doctor's name come up as having this problem of undertreatment?
This is a problem. Mm-hmm. This is not an uncommon thing.
There is a major secret that is not being told. The patient should be told. There should be headlines. Your doctor will be paid less if he refers you to a specialist.
Dr. Ronald Bruneau is the president of Physicians Who Care, a national organization of 3,000 doctors. Earlier this year, he testified before a House committee where he warned that some HMOs pressure doctors to limit care.
The examples are nationwide. We have had personal experiences with hundreds of cases of obvious ways where patients were not referred to specialists where they should have been. A woman who had chronic vaginal bleeding and was not allowed to see a specialist. And it got worse and worse, and the doctor says, look, you don't really need a specialist. It's going to stop. She finally went to the emergency room of the hospital, and it turned out she had metastatic cancer, and it was too late.
Shared risk pools are a concept that is designed to encourage primary care physicians to pay attention to cost management. They have shown to be of benefit, or they would have been abandoned some time ago by everybody.
Dr. Bernard Mansheim is a spokesperson for the Group Health Association of America, which represents 3/4 of the country's HMOs.
And the point I would make is that when this has been studied, and it has been studied, there are several published articles, there has not been shown to be any systematic reduction in services because of that form of reimbursement.
How can you study under treatment when the patient doesn't know what is under treatment? The patient has no idea what should be done in any individual illness. All he knows is that the doctor tells him this.
You work for the third largest HMO in Florida. Does that HMO have shared risk pools?
No, it doesn't.
Why not?
We feel that the best approach is to work with the physicians, to pay them for what they do under the circumstance where there's a temptation not to spend the money, because if he spends it, it comes out of his pocket effectively. He may decide against it.
So what you're saying basically is that your main concern with these shared risk pools is that a doctor may put money before treatment.
That's the potential, and we don't want physicians in our plan to be in that position.
What is it that bothers you the most about the way your mother was treated or not treated?
The lack of treatment, no treatment, almost as if we were bothering them.
Betty Opbrook's 72-year-old mother, Judy, belonged to a different HMO than Janice Bosworth, but her case raises similar questions.
That's all you want in your life to achieve.
Betty and her stepfather, Ted Weiss, believe Judy's cancer wasn't diagnosed because her doctor didn't want to spend the money to treat her properly.
My wife couldn't sleep in bed. She couldn't lay down. She had to sleep in that chair over there, sitting up to breathe. And things were getting worse.
Judy went to see her HMO doctor, who, the family says, told her that she was suffering from a case of viral pneumonia.
But I told him that my wife has a history of lymphoma from UCLA. Cancer.
But did they give her a test for cancer?
No, they didn't.
And why, Betty, do you think they didn't give her a test for cancer? She's showing all these symptoms.
And I think if you get so much money per patient, and it doesn't pay for you to do any more for that patient, I think that's why. I firmly believe that.
When I was trained in medical school at Harvard, that was one of the lessons that were driven into me, is that you don't need to order an extra test. It does no good for the patient, and extra tests give you extra information that may often be confusing.
Judy's doctor was this man, Bruce Barnett. Dr. Barnett is Chief Executive Officer of Family Medical Group, which cares for 10,000 HMO patients.
Is he losing weight? He's going to die?
Well, yeah.
Half of them senior citizens.
We've asked you before how you felt about the eventuality of your heart stopping any time in the future. And you've told us how you felt about being brought back to life with machinery and with resuscitation. And what you're saying is you do not want to be brought back to life.
That's right. I don't believe in that either.
Mm-hmm. What are you telling me, though, about Dr. Barnett's decisions in terms of treatment of your mother?
There wasn't any real treatment there at the clinic.
There is a sense of order.
The Weisses went outside their HMO for a second opinion. That's where they learned Judy's cancer had returned. They say only then did Dr. Barnett admit her to the hospital.
What happened to her then? How long was it before she passed away?
3 days. December 16th, she died.
3 days later, she died?
Yeah.
I think that he felt that maybe senior citizens were a burden and costing a fortune.
This doctor used to work for Dr. Barnett. He asked that we keep his identity secret. He and other doctors we've spoken with who worked for Dr. Barnett say they were pressured to not order tests or specialists.
I think his philosophy was it's not so terrible to pass on if you've lived a long life, even if it was 65 instead of 80.
I hear from many patients over and over again, they do not want to be kept alive just for the sake of being on a machine. Patients will tell doctors to their face, don't do this to me.
Don't resuscitate.
Don't resuscitate, or don't even expose me to the surgery unless you tell me what the chances are it's going to make my life better.
I placed a person having a heart attack in the CCU who was about 70 years of age, alert, independent, not a burden to anybody, then have Dr. Barnett come up to me and say, what the hell are you doing? You are costing me too much damn money.
And he tore my orders up and threw them in the trash, saying, this guy is over 65. He's lived long enough. And that man took another sheet of orders, and I saw him writing on it, do not resuscitate.
And why would he do that?
It's expensive when you try to revive people.
You don't want to talk?
We tried to ask Dr. Barnett about these serious accusations.
You came in, confronted the doctor, and said, what the hell are you doing? You're costing me money. And that you went over, took the chart, and wrote, do not resuscitate on the chart.
Well, you're relaying some perception of someone else in terms of how they see it. The fact that...
They remember this like it was yesterday.
Well, I'll tell you what we should do. I think to really talk about this properly and put in a proper context, we should be, I think, trying to get back to the basic stuff I told you about. I mean, I am absolutely certain that each and everything that we do in our organization is designed to reach out to the population that needs health care and give them what they need.
Do you believe your mother was left to die?
I do. Yes. Had my mother been at UCLA, where she was originally,
She might be alive today.
Dr. Barnett has also been accused of questionable treatment by his fellow physicians. Barnett used to work here at Granada Hills Community Hospital, but when he became the target of an investigation, he quit.
Let me ask you about another...
No, Peter, you know what's happening? Peter, this is...
I need to ask you about this, because it's important to...
Well, here, my beeper went off, so I need to answer my beeper. And then we can come back, because my beeper went off and I need to serve my patients. I'll be back.
Hospital documents we've obtained raise serious questions about why Barnett didn't bring in specialists or order tests for some of his elderly patients.
Can we talk about these things? Based on your experience, why would a doctor not bring in specialists, not conduct tests?
Well, fundamental reason would be to save money.
You worked at Granada Hills Community Hospital. You were placed on probation. Can we talk about that? You don't want to talk about that? I want you to have an opportunity to defend yourself. You admit you've made some mistakes in the past.
No.
I mean, you did to the ad hoc committee that looked into your work at Granada Hills Community Hospital.
I don't know where any information from any particular hospital is entered into any type of a format where you are supposed to be talking about it. I can't even discuss it.
Public documents. We're able to get copies of those hearings.
I'm going to have to make some phone calls to help me out with this, because whether it's a gynecological workup or a mammogram or a more advanced special test, they're always looking at the money. It's not the quality of care, it's the money. And this is an outrage that this is allowed to happen, and it is certainly not rare.
I think that HMOs are grappling with how to manage costs. I think they're grappling with how to get physicians engaged in the responsibility to manage costs.
Hi, did you tell Mommy about that song you learned?
Time means a lot to me right now. Time means that my son will know who his mother was. Time means that he will remember his mother. Okay, sing with me. See? This old man, he played next on my shoe. It won't stop with me. It will keep going on with other men and women who don't know enough to, they just don't know. And too many people are going to die because they don't know.
Janice Bosworth is still fighting cancer after having a bone marrow transplant, and she's working with a support group to help other women facing breast cancer. We want to stress that not all HMOs operate with this kind of incentive. If you're concerned, experts say the best advice is to simply ask your doctor or check with your HMO to find out if it uses a shared risk pool. When we come back, it might be college football season, but we'll take you to one university where some say that not all the passes are being made on the field.
Essentially what he had said to me was if I had an affair with him, that he would help me to get tenure.
Because the meeting never ends when they say it will.
Introducing Minute Recipes.
Because practice always lasts just a few more minutes.
Recipes are recipes you make in 30 minutes or less.
Because the curtain goes up at 7:30 on the dot.
For delicious meals like stir-fried pepper steak.
Just look on the back of the box. Because you can only get recipes from Minute Rice.
Minute Recipes. Great meals for the time you have.
When your batteries are performing, you're on top of the world. But you never know when they're about to take a fall. Only Duracell has the copper top battery tester, so you can be sure your batteries will be riding high. You can't top the copper top.
Introducing Benadryl Allergy Sinus Headache Formula for allergies that hurt, from sinus pain or a headache. When allergies come on strong enough to hurt, new Benadryl Allergy Sinus Headache Formula comes on stronger.
Friday nights on CBS.
Dorothy's at the Golden Palace, but why is Sophia in a rest home?
This is ridiculous. You can't stay here.
Look at that tush.
Then could be a major dad upset. But how does Mac fit in?
Finish blowing up these balloons.
And Anthony's broken heart.
He's crying into a $27 drink with a 10-cent umbrella.
Will a showgirl cure him? Then what are Bill Daly, Steve Lawrence, Dick Martin, and Tom Poston doing at Bob's?
Will you marry me?
Get out of here right now.
Friday. One year after Anita Hill, some workplaces are still feeling the aftershocks. This is a story about one of them and one woman near the epicenter. Her name is Cecile Pillsbury. Tonight, Roberta Baskin brings us the story of this university professor who says the ivory tower has a glass ceiling.
Mommy, how are you going to go? I gotta go to work today. I know.
It's barely dawn, and Dr. Cecile Pillsbury is about to leave for work.
Good morning, Anita.
Pillsbury teaches accounting at the University of Wisconsin's Green Bay campus, a 2-hour drive from her home near Milwaukee.
It's a really long commute.
So long she regularly stays overnight.
I'm away from the kids for 2 nights a week, and that's really hard. That's the really hard part. There is no alternative for me.
Cecile Pillsbury has no alternative because 2 years ago she was forced to leave her job in Milwaukee at the University School of Business Administration.
We're going to talk about accounting today.
She had reached the same crossroads most professors do. If within 6 years senior faculty hasn't voted a junior member tenure a job for life, that teacher must go elsewhere.
I'm going to make you think. And once you get used to it, it's not bad, but it is very unnerving for the first few weeks.
Pillsbury was denied tenure at the UW-Milwaukee Business School, and the reason, she says,
I have charged that the business school discriminated against me because of my gender and because of my pregnancy in my tenure decision.
The University of Wisconsin has the reputation for being one of the most liberal, progressive schools in the country. Probably one of the last places you'd expect to hear charges of sex discrimination. And Cecile Pillsbury isn't the type of person you'd expect to be making those charges. She describes herself as a conservative Republican and is married to a prominent banker.
Who are our volunteers for today? I think it was you guys, right?
There's no debate. Cecile Pillsbury is an excellent teacher.
You're a nice crowd, nice crowd.
Her students scored highest in a nationwide CPA exam, and she earned an Excellence in Teaching award given by faculty and students at the business school.
Guys, you're supposed to be able to catch on to that answer.
Tenure decisions are based on teaching and research, such as having articles published. Pillsbury says she had been assured by senior faculty she was qualified for tenure. Well, where does the issue of discrimination come in?
Once I became pregnant, all of a sudden, it just changed. Everything changed.
Professor Pillsbury became pregnant with her second child just as the school was making its tenure decision about her.
About a month before my decision was made, one of the senior faculty members came into my office and said, "You had better teach your husband to keep his pecker in his pocket, or you're not going to get your research done."
He made that remark to you in your office, and it was a serious...
He wasn't laughing, and neither was I.
Pillsbury says that same professor made a similar remark in front of others.
And then he said, "No more of that now, so you can get your work done."
No more of that, meaning no more getting pregnant?
No more children.
Having a baby is not considered professional.
What is being pregnant called among women professors?
And some people call it academic suicide.
Some women professors refer to having children before achieving tenure as academic suicide. How do you react to that?
Well, I've never been pregnant, and obviously it's a tremendous strain.
John Schroeder is chancellor of the university's Milwaukee campus, where Pillsbury was denied tenure.
I don't know that it's academic suicide because we have a number of women on campus who've been able to do both, but clearly it makes the process of getting tenure more difficult. There's no question about that.
Dr. Eric Schenker is dean of the business school.
In reality, having a child is not the end. You know, the child is home, and it becomes more difficult at times for them to then achieve the tenure requirements.
But both administrators insist discrimination is not at issue in the Pillsbury case.
Discrimination is not tolerated. I think the Pillsbury case we're looking at here at the portfolio and research record. That's the issue.
They say that the quality of my research was not what they wanted.
Pillsbury had been up for tenure along with 3 male professors. She was the only one of the 4 rejected.
This is Auditing in a Journal of Practice and Theory, a very good journal in my field. And this is an article that I single-authored myself. This was an article that I did with a group of other women, a very respected journal. Another single-authored article. I mean, my contention is that I am as good or better than the males, okay? That I'm not weaker, that I'm as good.
Pillsbury can't compare her credentials to any other tenured women in the Milwaukee Business School. There aren't any.
How do you feel about the fact that there are 59 professors here, there are 24 that are tenured, and there's not one woman?
Well, as I said, I don't feel good about this. I mean, to me, it is embarrassment, and I'm doing everything possible to correct it.
Dean Schenker didn't want to discuss details of the Pillsbury case. However, in a confidential report explaining its reasons for denying tenure, the business school's executive committee also personally attacked Dr. Pillsbury.
This is their confidential report.
Right. This was their explanation, 19 pages that read like the Inquirer. At one SBA Christmas party on campus, the appellant wore a sweater that had a small boot suspended from each breast.
Was it provocative?
You'll have to judge for yourself. I think you have to have a wild imagination to view that as a provocative sweater, especially on me.
This is the sweater that they're talking about. I asked Dr. Pillsbury to bring it out for me. Both these sweaters, you've got 3 boots. You know, what are these males thinking that they would
if anyone
look at this sweater and write something up as a reason for denying tenure to her? You know, are they suggesting that she's provocative?
Well, let me say this. If anyone said anything, it is inappropriate.
It's inappropriate, and yet it went into this document from the School of Business Administration.
It is a faculty, I don't know who wrote it.
It's the response to the Faculty Appeals and Grievance Committee as the reasons, their defense.
Okay. But this is as I said, this does not come to the dean. If that's in there, I think it's inappropriate.
Still, Pillsbury isn't the only woman who's had difficulty advancing at the University of Wisconsin. Women account for only 12% of the full professors at UW. Some departments have 1 or no women faculty. Most women leave the university within a few years, a revolving door where young, low-paid assistant professors come and go with little chance of ever achieving tenure.
I'm very pleased that so many of you could be here this afternoon to honor our 18 newly tenured women faculty here.
The university defends its record as comparing favorably with other schools, but admits there's room for improvement and says it's trying to hire and promote more women.
Denise Denton, engineering. Yes!
But like Seal Pillsbury, some of these women say they too struggled with discrimination and harassment while trying to get tenure.
And you're representing the School of Engineering,
right,
where there are how many professors?
250.
And how many of those are women who have tenure?
1.